Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Murals in the Market Live. I'm Jason Hall. I will be what they call, I guess, is a host for this thing. Every week, we come to you live at 11 a.m. with a different artist from Murals in the Market to give you a different perspective on... I need to stop. There we go. You're looking up my nose. To give you a different perspective on how they got to Murals in the Market, their art, and what they're doing now. This week, we have an awesome guest, Ryan Doyle. He's going to be joining me in a moment. Right now, he's working on some stuff, which is awesome. If you know Ryan, he's known for doing large-scale installations and things that are crazy. And what he's working on right now, I'm so excited to show you guys today, because today it is making its first public... You might have seen it on Instagram, but today it is its first ever public showing. So we will talk about his new piece, The Elephant in the Room, and we'll talk about the elephant in the room in a moment. But before we get into that, every week I like to do a little bit of house cleaning and talk about last week and thank everybody and go through the whole list of everything. So let's start here, man. First of all, I just want to reiterate, we do a bike ride every Thursday. Come on out, check it out, and see what we do. This week we went by the amazing mural that's going down by Sydney James over in New Center on West Grand. I got something in the plans that's huge that I'm going to try to run by Sydney. Hopefully she'll do it, but I know she'll be into it. But if you have a chance, go check out Sydney's mural over on West Grand and see what's going on with that. And I want to give a special thank you to Askew One. Last week, of course, as usual, another amazing interview. Askew really talked about what was going on with the wildfires, what's also going on in his life with how COVID's affecting him and some of the new projects that he has going on. So once again, Askew One, thank you, mad shout out. And now let's see if we can talk to this week's guest, because he's working on something. I got to go this way. Oh, I'm trying to not have you see. Hold on. All right, I'm going to start over here. So this is what you know Ryan for. Every time I do a tour, people always come by and they always try to figure out what type of bird it is or what's going on with it. So we are lucky enough today to once again have one of my, this is I think maybe my second live guest. So while we're here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk with Ryan Doyle. What's up, Ryan, man?
Hi.
So Ryan, man, first of all, let's talk to the people about how you got to Detroit, because I didn't know the full story of this, and this in itself is amazing.
Okay, I got to Detroit with a group called Powerhouse, which is Mitch Cope and Gina Reichardt up in just north of Hamtramck in Banglatown. And they had a program where they were having artists come work with some abandoned houses that were there that they were hoping to improve the neighborhood a little bit. There were people doing drugs out of the house, and there was some crime that was starting to happen, and a lot of the houses at the time were vacant. So we came in 2010 in November and just started collecting what I call now detritus. It's like the detritus and scrap that's left from the vacant buildings that happen when people are displaced, and just scrap metal and stuff on the street, but detritus from Detroit. There's a fire truck that's gonna ask us to move in a second. So yeah, that's how I got to Detroit, is just working on these houses as sculptural media.
I'll let you guys
Internet.
hang on. I'm keeping it right here because we have to move the other piece because a fire truck is coming, but I'm still not showing you this. So enjoy. Give us 2 seconds to get out of the way.
Give me a thumbs up. All right.
All right,
we're back. So yeah, come back in a little bit. All right, so I got to Detroit, being offered art project through juxtapose and the screw powerhouse that's here. And right afterwards, there was a handful of other artists that did it too. And right afterwards, I was like, hey, what's gonna happen with these houses? You know, some of them are in decent shape. Some of them definitely weren't, but they were like, hey, well, we paid $900 for this one. It was a duplex.
$900 for a duplex.
Like, all right, here's $2,000 in cash. Can I have it? Like, they're like, yeah, okay, great. So then, I got the electrical working, and I got the water hooked up, water heater, basic stuff that cost some money, but we essentially just started living there, and we're about to have a kid, so we kind of started renting it out or just letting other people stay there, other friends from out of town, and getting more people excited about coming to Detroit and checking it out. And then now they're gonna honk at us again. Is this a different one?
I think it's This guy's not as confident as the other guy. The other guy was like, I can fit.
Yeah.
Can you fit? Come on, man. All right. Hang on, we're politicking. We got another fire truck. Let me get it through here. Once again, this guy's not as confident a driver as the last guy, or he just wanted to make a hassle. Okay. All right.
So yeah, I was here for about 2 days, maybe less, and I was like, I'm moving to Detroit for the rest of my life. It's the most beautiful place on the planet. I grew up in Minnesota in the Midwest, so coming back to the Midwest from being in California and New York City, Brooklyn was something I thought was a good idea for raising children. I couldn't really imagine raising children in New York or in Oakland right now still, but somehow here it really makes sense to me. So yeah, we had 2 kids and we bought the house across the street now, so we're kind of about to try to get a couple more lots that we've been just guerrilla farming on. My wife's been doing a lot of herbalist medicines and tinctures and just growing stuff in these lots in our neighborhood, which is now completely, I would say, filled back in. There's maybe a couple houses that are for sale that everyone, bought up and started raising their family there. A lot of Bangladeshi families, a lot of Yemeni families that are just fixing up the rest of the houses in the neighborhood right now. And then there's still a lot of black families and some old Polish families kind of in the neighborhood around it. And that's even changed a bit since I've been there. And it still feels like really healthy change so far. There isn't a lot of, big hotels or anything popping up. I don't think people are being displaced in the bigger sense of like gentrification over there, although it is changing definitely the dynamic of like.
So I was going to ask, has it been changing a little bit over there?
Well, when I first got here, it was still more black and Polish, and now there is like it's Banglatown is its nickname, so there's so many more Middle Eastern and Bangladeshi, Yemeni families that have come in, and I haven't seen any real, there's been like a little bit of crime that I've noticed, but as a whole, like most of it's gone away. When we first got here, there was a couple drive-bys and stuff that was just drug houses on the block, stuff like that. And when that was, I don't know if they went to jail or what happened, it wasn't really like us helping and others.
I was going to think it might be more like actually like people populating the area. That's how like crime, sort of like I always talk about the DeQuinder Cut at one time. It was like this lawless yard of graffiti, and they couldn't figure out how to police it. So they said, what we'll do is we'll just actually develop it and put people on it and make it less comfortable for people to come down here and do ill shit. You know what I'm saying? So like maybe that helped in changing the dynamic. Is like people were like, yo, I can't do wild shit on the corner because there's actually people watching me now. Or like
another thing that changed was the rental properties went to being owned again, and I think that made a little difference. There isn't a whole lot of communication. I think some of our neighbors, their English is very minimal, and I have not learned Bangladeshi or any sort of Arabic yet, other than a few words. And you know, like our kids playing with each other and just all being friends has really brought that communication to light.
Right.
And getting to know the other parents and whatnot, just being a parent over there with a lot of other families is feeling really good.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I love to hear like stories where people, I tell this story all the time. Another thing on the tours is I'm like, people come to Detroit, they fall in love with this place. You know, like a lot of people talk about Detroit as being a place they might live, but now Detroit is becoming a place they actually talk about and do live in.
Oh yeah, that narrative has changed in the last 10 years, especially for other big cities. Like other friends of mine now are all like, oh, we heard the Ford bought up the train station, and you know, there's like these milestones that have happened that this word has gotten out, and that's really changed the way people think about living here. I think there's still, we're both super, as parents, super happy with our kids over at Davison Elementary, but I think that's something that still worries a lot of people is the schools here.
Absolutely.
A lot of it getting privatized was sort of a red flag here, like possible red flag for a lot of people. And I'm not trying to get everyone to move here to change it from what it is any more than it already has. When I first got here, I liked it seemingly more than I do now, but not that I don't love it now still. I just kind of fell in love right away. It was amazing.
You sound
and
like
my wife's Canadian, so having it be close to the border and close to the kid's grandma and everything is really important.
I was gonna say you sound like a Detroiter, man, like a true Detroiter, because that's how we talk. We're like, we don't want too much change. Like we kind of like the way. I mean, we want minimal change. We want, you know, our infrastructure change, but as far as like the culture, yeah, you know, we're happy with.
I don't want to stop at a stop sign, but I'll do it if somebody's looking.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. So, what was your first connection to art when you got to Detroit?
Definitely the other artists there, Mitch and Gina. They both, I think, went to Cranbrook, so they had a big community of kind of educated artists, people that were actually kind of making money off art in Detroit, which when I first moved here I thought was not going to happen forever. And it kind of didn't. Like I didn't want to come here with the idea of taking money away from Detroit. I tried to come here and hire people with money that I was bringing from New York and Brooklyn, especially at first. So I didn't really apply for any grants or anything like that. And my idea was to just hang out with a bunch of different groups that I was meeting. So it was like Red Bull House of Art, meeting Jesse and Rula, which is Murals in the Market too, meeting some of the other like graffiti artists, I think was how I first got to meet a lot of people. And that culture I had known for a long time back in Brooklyn, and it kind of stopped doing graffiti as a parent and moved more towards sculpture. Okay. And that's what has led me down the road to like this sculpture here behind us, which is Phoenix.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Phoenix that I created was inspired to originally this was applied for as a piece that was going to go on the riverfront with Mark Wallace and the Riverfront Coalition. And they, I think, had some issues with where it was going to go, something that they had to figure out environmentally, and then they also found, I think, Scott Hawking's pieces to put in that spot. So I'm going to talk with them about where this idea could go, but the idea of making something that was inspired by Detroit's motto, which is Spiritus something. It's like, oh, what is it again?
From the Ashes, isn't it? Look, we both look like bad Detroiters right now.
Oh,
I'll have my assistant look it up right now.
No, I saved it on my phone, but my phone just died. It's like a comment about rising from the ashes after a time of rejoice after rebuilding. I think is even in there, something about rebuilding.
Yep.
And so this idea for me was like, the big three, the auto industry, the idea of Motor City, everything being kind of tied to one industry was part of this situation that's happening here for generations of the white flight and people just leaving the city, corporations moving out, capitalism going for the bottom dollar instead of the people, and this kind of just felt like a post-capitalist city. And so I wanted to make a sculpture that wasn't offensive, but that talked about something that maybe was a little hard for people to relate to. And that's also the idea of climate change and how this economy was built on pollution and oil. So I took this big piece of tank. I got it from some scrapper it's actually got it from Gary Sayers, the green slime guy.
Okay.
Who was polluting all of that toxic ooze that came out of the freeway.
What?
And he was selling off all this stuff because he was going to prison. So I went over and gave him a few bucks for this big tank, and then flipped it over and was like, oh, this would make a cool gas tank looking thing. Found another tar bucket. Almost everything I use here is just found on the side of the road, like pieces of scrap metal that are all twisted up. Some of this pipe is like just pieces of pipe that come out of it's just a water pipe, but I'll pull it out of the building and use it as kind of a structural piece of tube. And then a lot of the other parts here are all from cars that were totaled or scrapped or just donated to the recycling center. And then, some other stuff that I mixed in, like this weird insulation is from inside some seats of a car, and inside the panels of the doors where the white stuff came from. Just taking all that and mixing it into something new, which in this case, a lot of people think it looks like a chicken. I wanted to give it sort of like a phoenix. Definitely, usually is represented as a bird, but it's sort of just like a ember, like a flaming sculpture made out of fire. And I do a lot of fire art, and I've been going to Burning Man for a long time, and I've done pyro, and I'm like a union special effects guy in LA in the union, and I love doing that stuff, but it's also like not at a point where the public is ready to see it all the time. And even just leaving this here, I think at first I was like, okay, what are they gonna do to it? And so far it's got one tag from this person. We won't say their name, but
I'm not even gonna look at it.
It's like, I think some people think that I like the detritus and the detroitus and the like idea of being able to tag graffiti. Some of my bigger sculptures that are art cars, I do encourage people to tag them and just leave their mark, because it kind of creates this whole other layer of aesthetic of different colors, different names, different people's like brands and symbols, on the cockroach. But I didn't really ask anyone to tag this, so when they did that, I was a little upset. Not too bad though. Up there we've got more hoses, more like electrical lines. I think there's a frame of a motorcycle, headlights that somebody gave me to work on the line, and it just was like, oh, I got these extra headlights at my house. I was like, how did you get extra headlights at your house if you work on the line? How does that work? And they didn't really answer, but they had extra.
Right.
And they looked like the breastbones. So when I was making it, it was an idea of a phoenix. I did a drawing of it that
He's really good at drawing.
looked pretty much like this, and then it was all about taking that little sketch and figuring out what car parts I could turn into different chunks of it. You know what I mean? So on the back, it's like mesh from a radiator cover on the tail. There's pieces of perforated steel that are from like a grate on a truck. There's plastic parts from motorcycles, bumpers from cars, and I try to just, sit there and stare at it and hold it, tack it up there, and then glue another piece onto it. And if there isn't quite enough material there, like here, at first I just kind of had this, but then I was like, it needs like a little, kind of some metal muscle. So I was like, this kind of looks like a thigh muscle, a little thicker. But at the same time, it doesn't,
So what's your background? I gotta ask, what's your background in sculpture? Did you go to school for this, or do you just envision?
I went to arts high school when I was like 15 and 16. I went to the Lola and Rudy Perpich Minnesota Center for Arts Education and started studying sculpture and 3D design. And then I went to college on scholarships for like the first 2 years or so. And they really made me they tried to get me to redo a lot of things that I'd already done at this magnet school in high school.
Okay.
And so I got frustrated, and they also had switched from being a fine arts school to, it was 97, so they went to being like full web design focused, and they fired a lot of their staff. I was also just like, what am I really learning here? I'd already taken, my uncle and my grandma both taught me a lot of building skills. My dad is a field superintendent for a big construction company. So I spent most of my childhood on job sites, like working with tools and stuff that got old. And the robotics and keeping up with the tech and the servos, how the stuff moves, didn't really go into the sculpture, and neither did the fire. But I feel like, I don't know, people would call it kind of Mad Max looking, or maybe like cyberpunk. I don't know what category of art it goes in other than just
This is amazing.
Trash art.
No, this is amazing. So we talked a little bit about Recycle here, because you did a lot of work over there.
Right. So when I was talking earlier about when I first got here, the first like at least 2 years, I just wanted to go see what scenes there were and figure out like where I could make a change, or where they needed an artist like me, a weirdo, a dangerous guy who likes to have fun and who's also a dad with 2 kids. So it didn't really click with me anywhere right away, other than maybe like a little bit House of Art. But as soon as I got to the Recycle Center and the art park, I was just like, okay, Matt, let's fucking do this, because you are fun. And I think the first party he invited me to, he was looking for somebody to do pyro, and one of my friends was like, oh yeah, there's Doyle, he's this guy who's in the union. But I went there with some really dangerous flamethrowers and just kind of like set him up without saying anything and surprised him, and he was really surprised. And Matt's about like this tall, so his and I's dynamic was really funny right away too. And we just kind of hit it off right away. It was like he had built this giant castle out of cardboard with Neil and some of the other people from Botanical Fortress, and then I showed up with flamethrowers, and I was like, let's do this. Are you gonna, wuss out about it? And he was like, okay, new guy that's here in my warehouse, I guess we'll do this. And I don't know, like at the same time I was finishing up this 80-foot dragon that is covered in LEDs and is also just like this, made out of garbage. But it's on a Dodge W300 dump truck, so it's also mobile. It's like a big art car that I made for Burning Man, and it is got ginormous. What else? Huge sound system. So
it looks like it's tall as that lamppost.
yeah, it's about 20 feet tall.
Really?
With a big back. And I was like, yeah, maybe I could like bring this over to your warehouse and leave it here. And he's like, oh yeah, we got this nonprofit, and you know, Rachel was there at the time, Rachel Fegan, running Green Living Science, and they were super happy to just use it as educational observation for people that were, all these kids in the public schools that come, every kid comes through the recycling center on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a way to reach out to the kids and show them how fun recycling could be and some crazy things that you could do with it.
So I love how you just are like, yeah, I just showed up with a couple flamethrowers so you actually
I kind of like
have
dared him to let me do
flamethrowers in
whatever.
your possession?
Yeah, we have a collection now of them at the recycle center. We have.
You have a collection of flamethrowers?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Well, there's a couple on the cockroach. There's the Death of the American Dream.
The cockroach.
Yeah, there's one, and there's another one that we've traded out on it that's also at the shop. There's the Death of the American Dream, which is that big one that he's been running over there. And then we have some other ones that are like joystick controlled and super reactive that we set up at parties sometimes.
When did you first start working with pyrotechnics?
Like, it's an interesting thing to talk about in front of my 8-year-old son, but when I was young, yeah.
Go over there. Go over there.
No,
Nah, just kidding.
I started with my uncle, would help, you know, with fireworks and some supervised stuff, and then I think I started just doing like spray paint cans, and that escalated to the Anarchist Cookbook, let's say, and let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
How much more
Okay.
we can talk about? But when I got to Burning Man, I met this group called RoboChrist, who is also a part of Survival Research Labs, and they were very, very cool. They had big, super destructive metal robots, and that were all remote control. And I went up and was just like, hey, you really have to be careful with that, okay? I was like, hey, can I help with anything? And they're like, yeah, what can you do? It's like, I don't know, I went to art school and I'm good with Lego, but
I'm
what do you
good
got?
with
And
Lego.
they're like, well, we got this flamethrower, can you put it together? And then they show me like a pile, and just like Lego, they just did a little sketch, like, yeah, this, put all the pipe stuff on it, clean it up. And like an hour later, I made my first flamethrower, and they're like, oh man, what else can you do? That was pretty quick. And so I was really excited, and I was probably like 18, and I met these people that I had only seen in like VHS tapes. You know, the internet was like barely alive.
Right.
So seeing Survival Research Labs and these groups that were just like ultra violent, but artist theater, you know, It was like, wow, what a way to non-violently protest everything that you hate.
Yeah.
Just like make giant robots about it. So
You keep making
when like even here when the emergency financial manager showed up, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who did you appoint to be in control of the city that I just moved to? I was so pissed. And they got Christie's in here to like look at what the value would be if they tried to sell off the DIA to all their rich friends, and I was like, you motherfuckers. Like, we called Donna Karen, and we got people from who was it, Jesse Doan and like Matt, and just called people from New York Times and got people on the Dragon, and we drove it down to the DIA and just lit up this sign that I made that was, you know, those election signs that are just like a piece of wire with some corrugated plastic on it. It's like the most common election sign.
Right.
So I took all those, ripped them apart, and made this thing that just said hashtag save the art, and then I wrapped it with t-shirts and fabric that was just at the recycling center, and put like diesel and gasoline mixed together on it, because it gets kind of this more orange dark flame than just regular gasoline. It lasts longer. And soaked it all in that, and then drove the Dragon down there with the New York Times and some other reporters, and lit it on fire, and it got on like Rachel Maddow and MSNBC and all over the internet. She called it I think Rachel called it like the best thing in the world, and it got a lot more attention to this issue of, hey, this emergency financial manager is not only like cutting the water off and switching to Flint's like river, but stealing everyone's pensions. To now they want to take all the art away from the people, and that's when I was like, so I hope we helped cause more awareness. It's not like we really stopped it, but they did stop looking at selling the art. So
yeah, man. Yeah.
And when they opened back up, there was like pictures of Matt and I down there at the DIA, and they've all been very helpful and supportive and very cool.
I gotta look up this the dragon that's on fire, man.
Rachel Maddow, Detroit Dragon.
Yeah. No, you hear that? If you're all my
link.
watchers, go look at that right now. Well, not right now. When we're done with this. So you keep making
that idea of like big protests and using art as protests. I thought was so amazing when I first met this group. It's about research labs, and I would say also people that were in the group went on and did a lot of their own stuff that was more solo projects and more other kind of groups that were formed out of that group. But they started doing a lot more interactive things, and I felt like 10, 20 years ago when I was doing that, 20 years ago when I was starting, the idea of interactive in the art world wasn't there like it is now. Museums had not switched over to anything interactive or like social media influence, and we as people hadn't really been switched over to that kind of influenced by the algorithms and the control networks of the internet that we interface with. So I knew that was going to be a direction, and I just decided that's the kind of artwork I was going to try to make.
Well, you've been successful in this next piece that we're going to talk about.
All right.
So,
hey, you ready?
We are going to address the elephant in the room.
All right. This is my assistant, Axel Atomi. You got your mask on? Here, stand up. Come on and say hi. Sure. All right. You ready to turn that on? All right. Alright, this is the elephant in the room. It is a fiberglass elephant that I got from some friends. It was made for a auction for artists to decorate a bunch of different elephants and raise money for elephant conservation. It sold, but it didn't go to its new owner, so I was given this elephant. Kind of just took it from some friends. Okay.
It is wearing a Make America Great Again hat in Russian. Oh, it's alive. Yeah, I've seen the power of the elephant in the room in multiple ways. So what you were inspired by? What was something at the Smithsonian?
Okay, so the Burning Man Festival was asked to do a show. Here, we gotta get this out of the way.
Yeah, nice. Go ahead and move your big old truck through. Thanks. Thanks, America. I'm trying to make art here. Oh. I'm getting on that thing, dude.
Try not to hit the bumps, okay? Alright, so the elephant in the room. It was originally my idea for using this elephant that was kind of just around. To make something for the Burning Man show at the Smithsonian Museum, which is right next to the White House. And Trump had just been elected, and Burning Man was finally getting like some big gallery show instead of just being this wild Yahoo festival of like ex-deadheads and nudists, whatever people think of Burning Man. It was getting some like real notoriety in the art world by having a show at the Smithsonian. So I decided with the CEO, Marion of Burning Man, that we were going to make the elephant in the room, and that I was going to make a remote control elephant out of a recycled wheelchair, motorized wheelchair. This elephant that had been sitting around, some of that leather is just scrap leather I had around from the dragon, and the saddle was like from the dragon, stuff that just were extra parts. Okay, yeah, let's get it back over here. So yeah, just taking all those objects and making them into something that was remote control. This at the time, it was a huge deal about Trump and his cronies from his campaign all going to prison for Russian interference, etc. And that is why I made the hat in a Russian font.
Yeah,
so it says "Make America Great Again" in Russian.
Let's go check out the elephant. Yeah, man, no, that thing is crazy. And it's actually, there was somebody riding it, right? I saw a picture of somebody on it. So you can ride the elephant in the room. That sounds weird.
It's
whoa!
It's a little glitchy today.
It's running away. It's an elusive elephant. As soon as we got here, it went the other way. Trump, you elusive son of a bitch.
Drive it fast.
Oh no, let me get out of the way of it then.
Drive it right up. So, it's very like glitchy, but it's also big and powerful. It's funny the way other people operate it. That was playing like, hey, we are in control of this elephant in the room that we are all seeing. Kind of.
Can somebody ride it with you controlling it?
Yeah.
No. Yeah?
Yeah. You want to get up there?
You know I want to get him on there.
I don't think he does.
You know, you might not. I don't know if I know why you controlling it, man. Yeah, I am 100%. How do you get up on this thing?
All right, there.
Oh, I'm gonna die.
There is the strap.
Okay. If you're gonna die, I mean, you might as well die riding a white elephant. You know what I mean? Like, who could say they went out like that?
We have lost a couple people already.
Okay.
I hate to brag.
Is there something to hold on to?
Not really.
Not really, just survive. That's the only thing that matters.
Oh my God, be careful.
I don't want to get in the way.
Oh God.
This feels so
Natural, right?
It feels like you would think a person on an elephant would feel like. I feel like proud, like I'm up here, like, you know? Wow. Yeah.
They would go way faster.
You know, the last time I rode something, it was a kayak and I almost died. I feel way more comfortable on top of the elephant. It's pretty neat. She's a good elephant. This is amazing. How fast have you gone? I don't want to find out what how fast have
It rips pretty hard though. Now I put some new batteries in it. I was just rocking the original batteries that came in the electric chair, the electrical wheelchair. But I replaced them, and now it's like X Games mode. It is fast.
This is
Let me
amazing.
show you a little bit faster.
Whoa.
It's like half.
Whoa. Wow. Don't try this at home, kids. If I'd have known this, I probably would have put some padding on. Maybe a bicycle helmet. Wow. So
Helmet
I
could have been a
think
good
that's
one.
way bigger
while
than
I'm
a
up here,
bicycle,
so what's up next for you? What is your next event that you have going on that we can see some more stuff that you have?
Next I'm working on next I'm working on a bar, like custom bar over at Spotlight, which isn't necessarily an art piece, but it is something that's really interactive. It's gonna have some pieces that are mechanical and stuff like that too. And then I just finished working on this van that was like a RV build out for a group called Solitary Gardens that goes between gardens and prisons and trades herbalist medication with prisoners in between prisons and at like other kind of educational
Dad, I think
trade
somebody's
shows.
trying to go through.
Oh yeah. And so that was a really fun project.
Here come the
to, like,
police.
No, move, please. Please, fine.
Now it's official. Wow, they're good. They're fine. They're fine.
How do you feel about the police in Detroit? Do you ever
Wow, he
see-
puts me. I mean,
while we're sitting on an elephant talking about the elephant in the room,
Talk about
I've
politics.
had really great run-ins where I should not have been treated well, probably. Like, there's things that I was doing in the city that I didn't realize. You know, it was just a white man coming into a black city and just helping himself to all of the scrap and stuff that was in these abandoned houses, not really realizing that abandonment meant so many different ways to get there. But you'd feel all this energy from all this stuff, right? So I just had this like magnetic draw to going and collecting cardboard or whatever I thought was like kind of spiritually vibing when I'd go into these abandoned places. But then looking back at it, I'm like, oh, you just like basically walked into these places and do whatever you want,
The
and we're like
elephant looks
very
weird
entitled.
without the hat.
very entitled about it. And a few times police would come up and like stop me and they're like, oh, you're the dragon guy, okay, whatever, go for it. You know, and it wasn't like like literally when we were working on those houses when we first got here, we were in
That's what those
a
police
spot.
just did.
Hang on, man. We were in a spot right over here and you're cutting off a dormer off of a house that was on the burnout list. So we knew the house was like gonna be destroyed. I'm gonna shut this off.
I can feel it bucket.
Save the
I'm getting
battery.
tired of me sitting on it.
It's just getting a little wiry. Battery gets low, you don't know. I don't want that. Not with them there.
Right, not with them there. We want it, yeah, we want that on television.
With that camera,
But no, I mean, honestly,
Here you go,
I can piggyback on what you were saying. Like,
yeah,
I've had some really great interactions with the police through slow roll, especially. You know, I mean, 10 years of riding, thousands of people through the city. Yeah, at the beginning,
building up a
anytime,
reputation of being a non-violent group and side road goes.
anytime they could have stopped that, but we definitely wouldn't have been able to do what we did without the support of the DPD, man. So, you know, I walk a fine line of that conversation, you know.
Sure.
But no, that's why when I see them, it's weird. When most people see the police, they're like, oh. When I see them, I'm like, oh, is this somebody I know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
I've
it's a
gotten to
different
know
interaction.
them as the wild dragon guy that is, you know, oh, I accidentally was like blowing up a car, throwing it off one night, and they all showed up, and I was like, hey, I didn't pull a permit for this because it's just some friends and I like
Blowing up cars.
what do you think? And they're like, wow, you really shouldn't do this, but dude, get out of here.
Right. You know what I mean?
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had really good interactions, and then of course at the art park,
Now
Most of the
he's
time.
gonna come down here and be that
Hey,
guy.
get out of
Yeah, he's gonna be like, you need to move your elephant.
yeah, like at the art park, they come in and they'll just hang out at 5 or 6 in the
Does
morning.
it move?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see it move.
All right.
Man. you gonna control it?
Hold on for the jerk.
Oh, it could jerk.
It could jerk. It could jerk.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Alright.
All right.
Here
Go forward slow. Real slow.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Y'all be safe over here.
Alright, brother. Thank you.
Be safe.
Dang it. See, like, they always do this.
You know what I mean?
Get the whoop whoop even.
Man, no, like I said, man, I know a lot of really bad police officers, man. I've interacted with some in my life that are on the other side, but for the most part, the Stray Daughters did a really good effort to, like, be a part of the community, man. So it's kind of... How you doing? Riding elephant. Before we go, if anybody wanted to get into sculpture art or this type of art, what advice would you give them?
You don't have to be trained to make art. You can just start doing it. That'd be my advice. Anyone can draw. You don't have to draw great. You don't have to draw the best. You want to try to do that? Yeah, take classes, look up, there's trade schools around. You want to learn how to weld, you want to learn how to do some of these like important skills that come from creating, and get some of the cathartic, what am I looking for? Release or like some sort of spiritual thing from it. I think that's really important too, but it all just comes from just starting and trying. And once you, like, the only thing between you and making art is your own fat ass. So get off it and get to work and start doing it. That's how I learned. I didn't really think I was doing this kind of stuff. You know, it's like making robots or stuff like that. I never really thought about that way back in the day, but it all makes sense now, like just starting on that path.
We're going a little bit too fast.
You know, I'm starting to trust you more as an operator. Don't take that to your head, though.
Yeah, this is operator, Axel Atomi.
Axel, you're doing a great job, brother.
I'm on Fortnite.
Well, where can we see you? What's your Instagram?
Okay, my
Website?
Instagram, my main one is Doyle Huge, DOYLEHUGE on Instagram, and then my other one is Darth Loiter, like loitering in the darkness, Lloyd, DARTHLLOYDER, Darth Loiter.
Gotcha. Well, Ryan, man, this has been easily this has been my most interactive live that I've done, and the funnest for sure. Like, I've had great conversations, and this was great conversation and entertainment all wrapped into one. Everybody, thank you for coming to Murals in the Market Live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Thank you, Ryan Doyle. Thank you to the elephant in the room. Thank you to everybody for joining in. My brain is all over the place because I'm on this big white elephant. See you guys next Saturday. Man, this is awesome.
All right, good.
Yeah. You know.
Don't do that.
Don't hit you. I'm old, man.
He's
This
8.
is awesome, dude.
Thanks.
You